Well, of course you all know about them, but let's get a few little details in. So first creation for the Concert Colonne. The Concert Colonne was like one of the main Parisian concert organization in the beginning of the 20th century. In 1904, it was played on, of course, a chromatic harp with string orchestra. And at the time, so you know about the chromatic harp. I'm not going to go too much on that, but the piano maker Pleyel and Lyon Pleyel at the time, and it has no connection with Lionel Hilly. So was building the chromatic harp, which was a little bigger instrument with 3 rows of strings. It was like a piano completely turned from this way to this way, basically. And so you had like the black keys, so all the sharps or flats that were crossing diagonally through the soundboard, and then in the middle you had all the naturals, all the white keys. So it was meant to be able to allow the harp to play all of the notes in the scale, and it was a technical progress in a way. I mean, there had been other harps in the Middle Age or even a little later in the Renaissance period that had like 3 rows of strings, but it was a very different. It was very different in terms of it was supposed to be technically much more evolved. And so, why did Debussy wrote these dances for the chromatic harp? Well, because Pleyel paid him to do so. It was a commission from Pleyel, who was very influential, actually, piano maker. He was as successful as Erard, because Erard was also building pianos at the time. And so Pleyel had a lot of money, and he wanted to promote this chromatic harp. So they hired Debussy to compose the 2 dances. So Debussy did that. He was present at the premiere, and he was not so happy with it because of the limited sound of the instrument, of course. The problem was that because you have so many strings on the soundboard, on one soundboard, that then you don't produce as much resonance. You have also little holes in the soundboard, which influence the sound. So in any case, the production of sound was not great. You could not be very powerful. You could not really have big fortes and things like this. Or if you would really play forte, then you would saturate and have the strings like hitting each other, so making terrible noise. So it was not an amazing success. And so very fast, actually, Henriette Renier, who was also present at the premiere, transcribed it for pedal harp, and then she created it a few years later on pedal harp. I think it was in Salle Cortot. I have to check my information on that. I will get back to you later. And so it was then like she was really one of the first, I would say, really ambassador of the piece, and she made it really, really well known in the beginning of the 20th century, Henriette Renier, on the pedal harp. And then she published, with the authorization of Debussy, with Durand, the version that I sent you today. With little alterations, of course. So we are going to go through them and discuss them. I don't think they are really worth keeping, most of them, but some of them are not uninteresting. But that's good that that we speak about those. So the music you have in front of you today is the validated by Debussy, published Renier transcription of the dances for chromatic harp. And so that's the pedal harp version arranged by Renier. What else did I want to say historically? Well, not much, apart from that, the fact that you know that the chromatic harp didn't survive long after that. There was still, though, a studio of chromatic harp at the Paris Conservatoire until the 30s, I say, and it was actually held by the wife of Marcel Tournier. She was the professor of chromatic harp there, but very fast, like Pleyel was not making any money out of the chromatic harp, and they abandoned the production. And I think that though there is still one department active in the world of chromatic harp is in Belgium. in Brussels. But I think there was still like it's not a full department. It's like an option you can take, but there are still people that are like trying to keep the history going, which is a great thing. And very recently, if you can go online on YouTube, you will see Sylvain Blassel, that you must know, that made this video on an old chromatic harp with a modernist program. But it's interesting to see the instrument, how it can be play and see the technique that had to be very, very different from our pedal harp because of the intrication of the strings, and you have to get in the middle, you have to get things like this. So go and watch this video by Sylvain. I think it's a great way to witness what it was like to kind of have to adapt to the chromatic harp. There we go. So let's start with Danse Sacrée, number 1. Alors, I'm going to try to not go into too many tiny details, but even though I think it's important that I start, so I would like to put your attention on something very important in the beginning, is already that in the 2 first bars, you have 3 different qualities of articulation. The first beat of the first bar we play, so the second line, there is this triplet of quarters, which has no indication towards it, like nothing. Then the 2 next beats, you have dots on top of the notes, and finally on the second bar you have dashes. So it means, once again, we have 3 different kinds of articulations in this first phrase. And at the same time, it's supposed to sound like a phrase, so something that is unified enough. It cannot sound too different, so that it's like like 3 different little phrases inside of one. It needs to be unified as a beautiful phrase. So the idea is, how are we going to make a difference? Also, time signature, it's a 3-2, you know what it means, 3 half notes in a bar. Why is it in 3? Well, because it's a dance, 3 beats per bar, so it's important that we always keep in mind that beat number 1 is the most important, beat number 2 is weak, beat number 3 is kind of intermediate and bringing us back to the next 4 beats. But it's important to keep this feeling of 3 throughout the whole 2 dances. The second one is in 3-4, which is like a waltz. But yeah, we keep, of course, the idea of this time it's a slow 3-beat dance, the first one, la danse sacrée. So, articulation. Alors, there are several options, and this all goes to the way we actually are going to arpeggiate the chords. You have to know that in the times of Debussy, they didn't need to precise the arpeggiato side. Like, it was kind of a tradition that the harpist would actually play everything arpeggiated, and you needed to kind of precise it. So you will find in some orchestra parts like this little sign that says that it needs to be played straight, like all the strings together. But most of the time, the tradition was the harpist arpeggiate everything or roll every chord. So I think that some people play the first 2 bars playing the chord straight like this. And I really think it's a bad idea, if you ask me. Why? Because there is almost then no way to make this difference in articulation, and 2, it's flattening everything. Of course, it's flattering for the resonance, and but it's not really working. So I would really not play those first 2 bars or any chords apart from a few ones straight. I would roll all of them. So how would I roll them? Well, then for the first beat, first, this triplet is very important. You will notice that starting with a triplet is kind of a bold choice by Debussy. It's also very typical. It's an expressive way. So we are on the first strong beat of the bar, and we have this triplet. And so this triplet, there is no way it's going to be like a mathematical triplet, like pam, 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 pam. No, it's not going to happen. The idea of the triplet already in Debussy, all in the Impressionist music, but also in French music from that time, is like there is some kind of, I would say, roundness, so something like not square. So please, this first triplet, don't play it like a square triplet. I mean, if there is such a thing as a square triplet, but what I mean is like not all of the duration perfectly even. I think the idea is like we use this triplet to rebound. And actually, if you look, the three notes of the triplets, they go down, re, do, la. So re, do, la. And then we go back up, do, re, fa, sol for the rest of the bar. So this triplet is kind of like a trampoline that is going to help us bounce towards the rest of the end of the first bar. So the idea is that we are going to lean on the first beat, on the first note of the triplet, and then use the other two notes of this triplet to kind of go towards the second beat of the bar, which is the first note that has the little dot on it. And so it's going to help us. We are going to play with the arpeggio, the rolling speed, in order to make that happen. So I let myself arpeggiate quite broadly the first, rolling quite broadly the first chord, and then the second one are already getting a little shorter, but they won't be as short as the second beat, this one. So you hear that there is a really differential articulation already in the three first chords, and then the quality of, I think of arpeggiating beat 2 and 3, starting the two hands together. So like just to make them a little more, to get the feeling of the dot. And then the dash, the second bar. And don't forget to do the diminuendo. So let's get back to the beginning of the first bar. Okay. That's it. Then I have many questions usually about the first two bars. So the melody, what should be the melody? Which finger should we aim for the melody? Like some people would like to have the melody on the right thumb, on the really top of the, or some people like to use the left third finger, the lowest note, like this one. Or, well, my opinion on that is that I think it's a little bit a combination of both, to be totally exact. Of course, you're going to get more warmth and roundness in the lower part with the third finger of the left hand, and then you can find the light and the sparkle of the sound in the right thumb, which is on the really top. So, but I wouldn't treat the right thumb as the main source of phrase, because like this, I don't think it works. I don't think it's resonating enough to give us some kind of warmth in the sound. So don't privilege the right thumb as the melodic point. I think the melody is going to happen no matter what, but cherish the third finger left hand more than the right thumb, in my opinion. The right thumb is just here for the little spark of light on top of the chord, but it's not the main voice for the melody. Okay. Now just to finish on the rolling, so regular rolling with a little emphasis on the first one for the triplet, then almost, so two hands rolling together for the end of the first bar, and then that's it for the two first bars. I already spoke like, wow, 10 minutes on only two first bars. If I go on and discuss them, we're going to spend 4 hours together, guys. So I'm going to try to be a little more efficient, but this beginning is very important. It's how you set the mood. You know, you have this introduction that by the strings before, la, sol, do, re, la, sol, mi, poet, 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 there's a beats, poet, poet, poet. Then you can leave a little silence before you start. Some people try straight away. I think it's good that you leave yourself some really like half a second of silence after the strings are done to start your phrase. I think it's really important to introduce the people to the sound of the hardware. Don't rush. It needs to sound very calm and it's beginning. Then last point about these two first bars is the dynamic. So you see pianissimo, doux et soutenu, which means soft but sustained, which is like a very French thing to say two opposite things in one sentence. What I would like to say is like pianissimo, yes, yes and no. Pianissimo with some kind of sense of sound. Okay, don't be like completely transparent here. It's there need to be some kind of, you need to kind of prepare the sound. You will see that I prepare, I kind of press on the string, I string, how do you say, squeeze the strings. The sound is prepared in advance. Another thing I don't want to see you do is to place the left and then the right like this, because it's going to disconnect the chords musically too. So always practice these two bars, placing the 7 fingers together. Okay, never go to the string one hand and the next. Even if you think it's sounding better for the resonance, then it's going to sound terrible for the music. Okay, and so dynamic. So more piano more than pianissimo, and then you need to follow the line and be very careful, because most of the students, when they play Debussy, they don't realize, but this part of the harp usually resonates quite well, but when you get there, the second bar, very naturally you get a lot of sound that is developed by the beginning of the widening of the soundboard on this part, on this part of the harp. So even if you don't realize it, the sound gets warmer and bigger there. So, and you can see that in the second bar you have a decrescendo. It's very important that you make a big decrescendo, that you really diminish the sound a lot there, because if you don't, it's going to sound like you're doing a crescendo. And it's really important that actually what I really think, I kind of think of doing a crescendo on the first bar, just following the height of the phrase, do, re, fa, sol, re, and then I land on the piano, mezzo piano on the first beat of the second bar, and from there I completely diminish. Okay, so like this. That's it. And then of course use the decrescendo to also take some time. You need to give a sense of absolute serenity, peace in the beginning. I don't want to feel like I have to be on time. No, it's the end of this. Enjoy the sound and also arpeggiate a lot this last chord. I know it's on a weak beat, but it's very long. It's supposed to last 2 full beats. So this one, I really, even if it's very piano, I really spread the roll a little longer. Okay. Then for the rest of the phrase, do, re, sol, you are going to notice this very, very common dynamic writing by Debussy. So I would strongly advise that you refer to the manuscript that is available on IMSLP of the full score of the dances. And it's very, why do I ask you that? Is because you can always refer to the dynamic written by Debussy in the string parts, which sometimes are better explanation than what we have only here. Sometimes the dynamic makes sense for the whole people playing the piece. So it's once again accessible on IMSLP. And so why am I saying that? Is because on the third bar, the dynamics, so do, re, sol, when it comes back at the end of the first dance, this theme, it's played with you arco by the violins, and you will notice that there is this crescendo, and then he writes piano again, and the beginning dynamic for the strings is piano. So it means actually we can deduce from that do, re in the third bar is crescendo, and then you need to land on the piano subito. Okay, so don't do, certainly not, it's not what he wants. He wants this, he wants you to go back on the third beat of the third bar. Okay, so let me go from the second bar. One crescendo, piano subito, and now long crescendo. So don't crescendo too much, because you need to really spread it on all of this, and then you notice that on the third beat of the first bar of the second line we have this piano. It's again a piano subito. Okay, so really distribute evenly your crescendo towards these full 3 bars. Don't do too much here, but now start to really swell. And then to enjoy the surprise, take some time like this. And then we diminish even more. Alors here, it's a French tradition. I was always taught to play this chord straight. It makes sense in many ways because of the color of the chord to begin with. So I am now on the 3rd bar of line 2. Those are not regular chords, like chord with thirds in the middle. Those are chords which are only composed by 4th and 5th interval. So they give a feeling of kind of, I don't know, it's a strange still feeling, like it's a feeling of immobility, of stillness. So that's why playing them straight makes sense. It doesn't mean that you cannot phrase, so there is still a slur on top of them. So 1, 2, 3. And don't play them mathematically. You can hear that there is some kind of rubato. Rubato has to be present. It's a dance. Of course, you are not going to do like it's not the point. It has to stay pianissimo, but it's a dance. It's sacred dance, but a dance. So don't be a machine, but like let the rubato, natural rubato happen. Okay, and then after this bar of stillness, we are going to open the sound. There is my next observation about this. If you look at the range of octaves that we have been playing at the moment, it has always been 2 octaves. We have stayed within the range of 2 octaves until now. La, fa, la, do, la, fa. And now we are opening the range. So we go from 2 octaves here on the 4th bar of line 3. Then we have 2 octaves plus a third, and finally 2 octaves plus a fifth. This is very important. It means a lot if you look at it in the analysis. Like we are opening the kind of this diaphragm for more sound and getting bigger. So it's the first opening really of the sound, and you really need to notice it and make people notice it. So this first chord is going out of the stillness of the bar before. So it needs to be arpeggiated, not brisé, but kind of short, a little bit like the first line. And then you start arpeggiate a little bit more because the chord is getting wider. And then finally, and if I go into very much details about this bar, it's very important too that the first chord, so it has a dash on it, it has arpeggiated, but it's the same distribution with only 4 and 5th. The second 2, but now we had the first chord of the bar only at 3 notes, sol, do, re. This one you are adding fa and si, so as if you were adding like a 2 layer of 5th under it. So it's already getting much more expressive, and finally we are adding a chord of 7th on the 3rd beat, which is so expressive, this one. So all the expression of this 3rd chord is in the E, the 7th. Okay, so you will notice that I arpeggiate them, I roll them a little bit more, each of them, to finally land on the 4 octaves. That is the piano coming next. And so the last one, I give a little emphasis. It's a detail, it's not going to change the world if you don't do it, but really sing this E in the middle. Listen, at least listen to it. Okay, and now the kind of trap you should not fall in for this bar is to make a huge crescendo. The crescendo is going to happen no matter what because you are touching parts of the harp that are so resonating, this part of the harp, that it's gonna sound a lot. It's gonna sound big no matter what. So don't add a crescendo to it, even if you love the color. You have to stay within the range of, you see the piano next, coming next. So you have to kind of keep in control of the dynamic. Don't explode, because then start finally a very long phrase that is going to give us our first crescendo going somewhere. You will see, you see that on line 4, so line 3, line 4. Line 3 of what we are playing, line 4 with the score you have in front of your eyes. We have this crescendo on the first bar of line 4. That is going somewhere. Finally, we don't have a piano there on the first bar of the first beat of the second bar. So this crescendo finally achieves something. Before that, there was always a crescendo and then piano subito. This time, this is the first crescendo that goes somewhere. It's important, and it's where is it going? Oh, the color of A major, which is really beautiful, bright, and full of light and color. So here, no crescendo. Try to limit really your dynamic, and from here, now crescendo, and really go for it. I would say small forte or big mezzo forte, your taste, and then immediately you go back. But you can still express yourself on this A major chord. And then you again disappear. And here, if you notice, if you want to be really nerdy, we are closing the door again. We go from a 6 plus 2 octave, 2 octave and the third, and only 2 octaves. So we open the door briefly to get to this beautiful moment of color, and then immediately we retract and we go back, because it's sacred. We cannot be too profane yet. Okay. Now my next remark about this whole phrase, you will see that I crossed out the octaves. It's for a simple reason, and you have heard me say that already. It's very important that you are going to have the instinct, even if you want to play at the same level, to have the octave sound too big, because you are going to put the same amount of strength, distribute the same amount of strength within your octave than you just did for the chord. When you do that, then the octave sounds too big. So be very careful about this. It's really, really, really important that the octave doesn't sound too much. First of all, it's not on. They are not on the beat. They are on the second half of every beat. And two, you have to think that Debussy, he was trained as a pianist. What does it change? Well, what pianists, when they play chord like this with 7 notes and then 1 octave, naturally, because it's a thing of gravity, they are not going to put more strength on the octave, because it's a question of just letting the weight fall down. It's an equal force, the gravitational force for them, for the pianist. So when they write a chord with 7 notes and then 1 octave, naturally on the piano, even if they don't really explain it, instinctively the octave is going to sound less. So it's very natural, and so then that's their way of phrasing with the piano. It's like they add weight by adding more notes on the beats, and then when they use an octave, it sounds thinner. Well, for us, we have to be very careful, because it's very different, because we are not using gravity to play, because we are playing, all the strings are like this and we play laterally. So we need to be extra careful. We need to think as pianists, and so be very careful that the octave does not explode in the middle. So of the beat. So be really careful. And here, okay, last little detail. So he prepares this A minor by A major, sorry, on the second bar of line 4, by doing the same notes exactly before, but in minor. So A minor here, and then it's way, in this, you notice that there are little phrases of 2 beats instead of 3. It's kind of a emiola, but not really an emiola. You know what an emiola is? It's in 2 bars of 3, making 3 bars of 2. It's a thing from the Baroque period. But in any case, here you can play a tiny bit with that. It's my last point about this phrase. So, like emphasize a tiny bit the end of your crescendo. 1, 2, 1, 1. Okay, you have like kind of a little emiola that is not really an emiola because it's not on the proper beats, but still, he writes 3 little slurs of 2 beats. They are interesting to kind of underline a tiny bit. Okay, and then so we close the door. And here the spirit completely changes. We have beats for the first time. So we had pitch in the beginning, but it was just to punctuate the first phrase. The first phrase, you know, re, do, la, do, re, la, do, te, do, ta, do, pluk. You had this like pluk, it was just a little punctuation. But now, now you have beats that are in the middle of the phrase, accompanying you through the phrase. They are giving you some momentum, you know, in order to bring the phrase up. So the spirit is changing. It's getting a little more joking in a way, or a little more alive from there. So some people play it a little più mosso. I don't like that too much. I like to try to stay as much a tempo or in the slow 3 that I can. It doesn't really make sense to accelerate the tempo here. It's actually going to be more, the impact you're going to have if you stay a tempo is you have to alter the speed of your rolling and use a little more of your wrist as if you had little dots on the top of your chords. Alors, a little remark, you will see that on this new spirit starting, I added some notes in the left hand. I am now on bar 4 and 5 of line 4. Why did I add them? So I think Debussy wrote the same chords all the way. He didn't think about that. That's Renier who changed it. For which reason? Just to get more muffling and more clarity. Basically, when she put only an octave, so maybe, I don't know if you printed it in gray, but if you printed it in gray, you cannot see it. But so she wrote here, just an octave, and I added the middle note. Once again, she did that only to muffle. That's the only idea. I don't think it's necessary. I think you can find your way around. I kind of always place with the fingers up to muffle what just happened, and then I catch. Yes, and of course, I think she did that because for many people, this is very not clean, buzzy, and this thing. The secret there is to really use your fingers a little up when you place like this, so that you kind of have this moment where just before you play, so that when you play, you muffle what is just before and it's not too messy. Because if you don't muffle anything, it cannot stay with. It's like, no, it's not good. Every chord should be clean. Like any pianist who play that, you see them move their pedal every beat. It's a sign that it's better to clean. In any case, so we start this little more alive and part. So not faster, always in 3. And don't start playing. No, it's 1, 1, 2, 3. And you see this beat crescendo. Is it going somewhere? No, we are getting back to the very old Debussy habit of crescending and going to pianissimo subito. So that's a surprise. You need to really work on that too to really make it clear. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then so the idea is like I spread it a little bit more. I kind of detail the beginning. I play to the pianissimo and immediately I jump to muffle all of this blah, 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 blah from the bar before. And then the feeling of pianissimo subito is going to come as much as maybe much more by the muffling than by the actual playing pianissimo subito. If you play to pianissimo, then it's not going to sound. So play mezzo piano or piano and then muffle, and that's going to give the illusion of this piano subito. And it's really important that you do that. So muffle immediately everything that is under the F, like this. And then we go on, same thing. And here I use, I didn't write it down, but I use for the last note of the left hand, I use the open thumb to clean already the end. And don't forget to go on with your crescendo on the last note of this bar, on the Do Fa Fa. Because then we have a piano subito. Okay, so, and then piano, very careful with the octaves. Of course not, so. And so then you have this piano. It's hard to stay piano the whole bar. I give you the authorization to make a kind of bit of a crescendo here, so that you are here in some kind of a mezzo piano and then diminish. Because we need, why is it important to make emphasize this diminuendo? It's because then we have a mezzo forte subito on the next page. So it's important that we go to nowhere, disappear, and then we open with this beautiful mezzo forte subito that you can see. So, we go to page 2 after 44 minutes. Oh my gosh, okay. So I will still be here in 2 days. So mezzo forte. Here, finally, the strings are they are being like half playing with the sourdine from the beginning. Now they give you some sound, so that's kind of enjoyable for them. They really usually love. They are also, for the first time, have a little phrase that is singing. So, si, do, si, do, re, do, crescendo. This last chord of the second bar of the first line of this page. Really fortissimo. Why? It's because you go back then to a mezzo forte subito. So I need to feel the intention of the crescendo, and it's the same for the string quartet. You will notice that for the string part, sorry, si do do di do di do di do ti, they are gonna drop too. So di do di do di do di do. So here I have always been very tortured about where to muffle. You will sometimes things keep me up at night. You see, that's very essential. So I finally settled for a muffle just before we start the recap of the first phrase, because before I was gonna do that, but then half of the time I would miss my jump. Doesn't make any sense. Just sacrifice the end of the bar of the diminuendo molto. It's a diminuendo molto anyway, so here. Okay, so like on the, I would say on the last 8th note of the bar. So 1, 2, 3, 4, so that you can muffle. It's really important to muffle though. You cannot let everything vibrate there. It's a recap of the first phrase. We are closing the first section of the piece. The first important section of the first dance. So by this is the little coda, I would say, of the first section. So muffle before, start from a clean slate. Phrase it as you did. Use the triplet as a trampoline again. So 1, 1, 1, 1. Here I have a note obsession of muffling, you are going to say, but I don't like all of this mix. I think they all mean something different every beat, so I would play Re, then Fa, Do, Fa, Do, Fa, and then muffle the bass. I just muffle the bass, basically. The Re that was before. Fa, Da, because I think it gives a sense of purity. There is something really pure that comes out when you muffle just after every chord is played. And then finally, my little pedal arrangement. So you don't move pedals. You just put G and B flat, and you play the harmonic on the once every 2 beats. So here, Ré la Ré, Fa si Fa, and then Ré la Ré, Sol Do Sol on the one. I'm sorry about the tuning. I have a lot of new strings, and my harp has not been checked for a long time because of the pandemic. So here, very important that you think you need to accentuate, to emphasize the slurring. It's slurred by 2, so it means the weight is on the empty fifth of the pure and fundamental fifth, and then this is the color of your chord that you give on the second half of the beat every time, and it's really just the color. It's as if you had like your bass, which is the fifth, and then this comes as kind of a cloud, just to give it a tiny bit of minor and then major. Okay. And so how do I achieve that? Of course, for the right hand, you cannot really slur anything fingering wise, but I really think of giving a little more weight to the first chord and then less to the second one. Like this. And then for the left hand here, you can actually use the cross fingering to really give weight. So I play 4 fingers, and I give the weight on the first note, and then I remove the weight on the. So I let my wrist fall down and then immediately go back up. Of course, it's very subtle because if you do it too much, it's going to sound like. But you can really see me remove the weight on the second note. And then, of course, not flat as you still are in a dance. So, Ré, Fa, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Okay, here it's a ritornello for sure. 2 beats, 2 beats, 2 beats. Tera, 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 pim. Okay. The harmonic is not from Debussy. It doesn't change much, but I just need to say it is Ronier, the little harmonic in the bass. Voilà, okay, that's done. We have concluded our first section of the first dance. Now we go to the devil is going to come in. It's a sacred dance. We are in a church, but then like the profanity is gonna come up. It's gonna come up in the sense of what we call a sound scale. With the right pedal, it's even better. The apparition of what we call the 3-tone scale, which is the in the medieval music it was the symbol of the devil so something that was not religious at all. It was completely forbidden in Gregorian music, for example. So anyway, that's a little joke from Debussy. Joke, I don't know, but it's of course he knew all of this, and so he plays with the sense of the sacred dance, the religious dance, and he's adding the devil inside of it. So apart from the little joke, it's also completely changing the color, of course. And so what are we going to do musically to do that? So always remember that the right hand here, I go against my technical motto. Usually, you know that I say that if you can replace, you're going to feel more the slurring, as many fingers to feel the slur. In this case, I think resonance is more important. So I really do this right hand, one finger after the next. It's one of the very rare cases where I do something that is tensioning for the hand. First of all, because it's pianissimo, and second of all, because the benefit of the resonance is more important than the benefit of the comfort. If you replace everything, if you replace 2, 3, 4 at the same time, it's going to sound like this. And if you don't, so I think here the benefit is really the benefit is really important. What we achieve by placing one finger after the next. So just for this 1, 2, 3 lines, do that for the right hand. And still believe that the right hand is secondary. The melody is in the left, not a big surprise here. So you will see my fingering for the left hand, and that's my next point. So I think here there is some kind of a written Emiola by Debussy, and we are only, it's not the most interesting melody on the planet, re, mi, re, mi, mi, re, mi, but now what is interesting is not the notes, it's the way it's written rhythmically. First of all, we are in this kind of misty feeling of tritone scale here on top. And so we have this just... Those are also, again, just another couple of perfect tone. So it's the tone scale, basically. It's just like having the tone scale there, complete. So and my idea is like we need to make the best of this kind of written Emiola, but also of the writing in a 3/2. So that's why my fingering. I think that the idea is he says re mi, and then the rhythm re mi mi. He insists on this mi e. Do, di, e, and then from there, that's why I write a decrescendo, di, e, we go backwards. So the rhythm tells us to do 1, 2, that's it. So that's why I wrote this dynamic crescendo, decrescendo, and this fingering to really feel the connection between D and E, and really give the emphasis on the E that is on the first beat on the third line. So okay, and then we open the door to something completely different. So this is still the tritone scale, but here we are breaking. We are not. If we would do a regular tone scale, it would be. And it changes that, but by adding naturals, by doing that, is breaking its tone scale, in making it something much more sensual, because it's introducing a minor third and semitones. So especially this interval of minor second, that is really like super expressive. So really be sensitive when you play this G, Fa, Sol, because of the... Voilà, so... And here I know it's very counterintuitive, but there is this crescendo at the end of this phrase. Naturally, if you would sing this phrase, it would be Fa, Sol, Fa, Re, Do, and the Do would go backwards. But when you write this crescendo, it actually wants something to happen. You want something like not really a feeling of awkwardness to happen. So and do the crescendo also with the right hand. It's the only moment in these two lines that the right hand gets a little bigger and helps with the crescendo. Before that, you really need to consider the right hand as being like secondary, really not just giving us this tone scale and an easy feeling, but it's really just like a smoke. And then you have the reality, which is the left hand giving the melody. So crescendo, and then piano subito. Oh, what a surprise. And you need to give some space for the strings to attack the to, da, 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 da. And so we went from a full tone scale to now something that is completely chromatic. only half tones, semitones. It's the melody of the strings here. So once again, it's not here randomly. Huh? So here, phrase. Once again, you see that I try to place one finger after the next to have more resonance, and then I also accompany the phrase of the strings. Sol, fa, fa, la, sol, fa, fa. They have the same rhythm that we had 2 lines before. Da, 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 da. And then again, da, di, di, da, da, di, di. So, da, 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 da. I give you little crescendo here and then disappear. Not too much because we still need to have the pure piano. And then even less. And then comes the first technically challenging passage of the first dance. So here I need to give you a few practice tips for the right hand. The hardest part is the right hand here, but left hand has its challenge too. So rehearsal number 1. You see, if you do a quick analysis of this, that we are just repeating what we did a few lines before, but this time it's all condensed in one hand because he's using the left to give us some color and harmonies. So it's really important that the right hand sounds as if you were playing with 2 hands. So like we did earlier, the sol, la, si, do, really pianissimo, and the re, mi, mi, the melody. So it's really tough because usually, you know, we are really used to play the second finger and the thumb much more on the right hand because of the way, like it's the top and the thumb is usually a strong finger. Well, here in this case, sol, la, si, do, 1 to 1 to 1 need to be completely erased. Pianissimo, half color, half play. And then all of the strength needs to be in the 4th finger. So in this case, when I practice, I kind of like, it's an important thing to realize that as if your hand was cut into 2 different parts. You have the 1 and 2 that are really doing almost nothing, and then all of the weight of your hand, of the articulation, is coming on 3, 4, 5. It's going to help you, first of all, because 3 and 4 are playing the melody, both of the fingers, so if you give the same amount of weight on every time you need to play them, you're going to get more, and then you need to really remove the stress or any weight from these 2. So my first practice activity here is to practice just this, like trying to really play sol, la, si, do to 1 to 1 with no strength at all, and almost like just a tiny bit of articulation, but almost nothing. And then you just do the complete opposite. So you try to always every time open 3, 4, 5 and close very deep. And try to feel that 1 and 2, when you do that, are not part of the equation. Okay? Then the next step, once you have done that several times, is to do only the melody, placing sol, la, and try to really keep them completely 2 and 1, not engaged. Like this. They must almost not move. They must be like almost paralyzed. Then, very slowly, you only start with the first beat, and you try to avoid the accent on the first, second finger. You try to really get no sound on the second finger and all the sound on the 4th, like this. And then you go on with sol, la, si, do. It's really important that you practice for at least a few weeks with the melody fortissimo, as forte as you can, and the sol, la, si, do almost non-existent. Because in the end, that's the only way you're going to. important thing, once you master that a little bit, so like all of the weight on 3, 4, 5 and nothing happening on the thumb and second finger, then you need to phrase it the way we did 3 lines before, which is re, mi, re, mi, mi. So okay, the phrasing is also really important there. They are not all fortissimo. Huh? We practice them this way to disciplinate our hand, but in the end, it's a phrase. So you need to sing the melody re, mi, mi, re, mi. And then the second half. Mi bémol. So here we have this crescendo. I crossed out the beginning of the crescendo. For me, the crescendo should start only on the third bar or after rehearsal number 1. Here. Why not before? Is because I want really you to close the phrase before. Re, mi, re, mi, mi, re. Really disappear. Okay, and then also you can see that he phrased, he put a slur sign over two bars. It's important that there is a little separation. That's why you see this little breathing sign in green before in between the second and the third bar after rehearsal number 1. Why? It's because you cannot really connect them too much. I think it's important that you realize that step 1, and then we are getting, ooh, something is happening. It's the second step, like coming up, and then something else. But so I really try to give some space. Start at the second phrase. Also, because so many people here, there is this big debate about the accelerando, en animant peu à peu, which means moving forward little by little. So for me, this en animant peu à peu, it should be distributed on the longest duration that you can. For me, I consider the animando to go up to the forte on line 3 of page 3, which is here. Here you can stop at the rating, okay? But before that, you need to evenly spread your accelerando. It's really important that it's a regular one. And so that's why giving this little space between the phrases is going to help us not to rush too fast. So many people play this like this. They play it. And then they do everything they can, and they move and they move because they are panicking. And then they have reached their maximum speed and then they stop moving. No, that's not what he wants. For me, it's really not too much accelerando, and actually these four bars, and we are going to distribute more of it later on. Okay, don't rush too early there, even if you are panicky, and for a good reason. It's really hard. It's the hardest moment in the first dance, and it's really the first technical moment that we have. So now about the left hand. You see the writing. So I have a very big hand, so I am at an advantage here because I can really work on the slur by 2. You see this slur by 2 in the bass. La, re, la, re, la, re, la. Important that we get the feeling of this slur by 2, which is weight on the first note and then removing of the weight on the second one. Pa, re, pom, pa, re, pom. And this combined with the phrasing da di da di di, so and then disappear. So this slurring by 2 is important, and so of course with a big hand I can put everything, like I have a big hand to do that. Lucky me. Most of you don't, so I would jump. Play 3-1 here, and then give the D, but really with no weight, so that I can really give the weight on the first A, La, Re, like this. Okay, so important this slot by 2. I'm not gonna even another three-tone interval. Anyway. And then we are not on a trip anymore, so there is an opening in the color. And this crescendo again has to go, and then piano subito on the 5th bar after rehearsal number 1. Okay, so if I combine everything I just said, try to keep your cool, don't accelerate too much. And don't forget to crescendo towards this last do re mi fa is going crescendo, and you are not too fast yet, okay? And then piano subito, so do re mi fa. Okay, then start a new section. So here you have different options. I started, my first fingering was octave, and then like this. It's better for singing the octaves, yes, but then you have the tendency, because of the jump, to make an accent on the 4th finger, and it's not your fault, it's just because you jumped, you don't want to miss it, and then you put an extra amount of strength, and then the 4th finger explodes. That's why I go for this slightly uncomfortable. I play Si, Do, Re, Si, and so it's really not very comfortable, but it gives you more control of the singing on your octaves. And I always replace in advance. I don't leave. Alors, sometimes I leave, but sometimes, actually no, I never leave. I always place by the lower part. Here I play so Mi, Re, Do, La, and then I just jump the thumb. The thumb is jumping. And I always try to place at least 2 fingers, and when I can, 3. So here I cannot place 3 because it's Do, Re, Mi, Fa, and I just play a Mi with my thumb. So I place Mi, Re, Do, but then I play 3 again. Anyway, you just follow the fingering that is written, and then musically, you see this crescendo going towards the first beat of the second bar, so the first beat of the first bar of page 3 to be precise, and then the crescendo and end of the phrase. And then you see a little breathing sign written by myself. Why? Because I think it's important to separate the 2 phrases. So we need to learn up this beat, and then this beat, and then this is kind of more obscure. For me, this little phrase, these 2 next bars, are kind of as if you were playing from behind the curtain. So it's more mysterious. It's not more mysterious. I'm not going to go too much into details. There's the reason for that in the intervals, but and then we have this crescendo, once again crescendo until the last note. So okay, sorry for the pedal mess, and then piano subito again, and now we have a phrase of 3 bars, which is a little unusual. So we did 2 bars, and now we have a long phrase of 3 bars. Okay, this is a way to explain us also that the animando needs to go on in a way. We have been really square before that, phrase of 2 bars, phrase of 2 bars, 2 bars, 2 bars, and now 3 bars, piano developing in crescendo to go to the first forte of the piece. There was no forte before. It's actually the first time you write the forte in the harp part. Okay, so now about the accelerando, because I'm not done with that. is on this phrase of 3 bars. It's where we are really getting the feeling of restlessness, and we want to go, and finally finish on this forte, the first forte of the piece. And we need to be really, really fast on this forte. Okay, so you see crescendo and then going back to forte. So it's not an explosion, it's forte, crescendo, back to forte, crescendo. And I know you have the diminuendo, but still I would achieve this crescendo to fortissimo here, and from here I diminish. Okay, keep the thing also. 1, 2, 1. Okay, so. So I hope I was clear. Just prepare questions because I know I go fast, but so that's the idea. The accelerando goes toward this forte, then stop. But we are usually much faster than most people, and this fast tempo we are going to keep until this faster tempo we are going to keep until the retenue, which is next page, which is 2 bars before rehearsal number 2. Okay, so. Fast. Okay, my microphone was saturating the forte a little bit. I'm so sorry about that. I could change that, but then you wouldn't hear me as good. So I have to break your ears a little bit on all of the forte. Okay, so here you need to think. People are freaking out about the pedals here. There is nothing difficult about the pedals here. It's just about thinking of the chords. It's all major chords. C major, E flat major, then F sharp major, but we don't have the time to put the A sharp, so we use the enharmonic. So you just need to know that you're using a B flat, fa, and then A major, and then C major, and then E flat major again. Just a cycle. So you can practice it. Like this in a cycle. It's really, it's gonna, and it's not this many pedals happening. So don't freak out about that. There is no reason to freak out about these 2 bars. They are really not hard. Here, you see my fingering. I put forte 1 and then 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, because I think I can give more the feeling of accent. It's giving it more instead of. I feel more in control of the accent if I put 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1 on this bar, and then pianissimo. And here, so that's debatable. I'm not very debatable, but here I am. I like to almost add a full beat because it's such a big surprise. Really arpeggiate and give me time. You just need to let know the string quartet. You don't have to add 1 full beat, but I think it really gives time for the color to spread. It gives us time to and so 3, and then 4 for the remaining of the bar. So I cannot do like and as soon as I'm done playing the Ré, Mi, Fa, I just go muffle what's down there. Okie dokie. Alors, here comes the little pedal challenge. So you see, I erased all of the pedal written by Renier, and I added mine, and I put these little arrows. The pedal needs to be put strictly where the arrows goes. And then you can see this little scribbling that's not very clear, 3 and 4 in blue here. So the idea is because we put D and E, D sharp and E natural here, to avoid this terrible round, we place Ré, Mi, D and E on the string we just played, like this. So you don't, I replace, when I play the F natural, I place 3 and 4 on D and E to muffle. It's really not really nice. It's nice. It's not a nice feeling. It's a little tensioning for the end, but that's the only way to put the pedals in an organized way. And so some people like to play, I think some people do Re, Mi, so they play D, E, F, F. I advise against that for the following reason. It's because it's killing the phrase. You play twice the same string, so in some case F and F sharp in succession, and we don't get the feeling of phrase. So that's why I advise against using like same strings with different pedals in one phrase. So then you hear the phrasing by 4, tia-da-da-da, 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 and I don't have because of the pedal. Okay, and then so this is a stressful bar also in terms of the intention. It needs to go a little forward. That's it. And then big breath, and this is like for me it's a reference to La Mer by Debussy, the symphonic poem. There is a moment where you have the high strings doing in the first movement, at the end of the first movement, maybe the second one, no, maybe I don't remember which movement. Anyway, this is a complete contrast with the bar before. So I play kind of piano subito there. I give some space. And I think very, very legato. Instead of like before you had slurs every 4 notes, now you have one long slur on the whole bar. Alors, my fingering is not word of God. You can change it if you want. That's what worked the best for me to give a sense of legato. Si, la, sol, do, si, la, sol, la, si. What is important is that you give the feeling of legato in this bar, and that's kind of a moment where time is stopping. Like you have pressure and tension, and then suspension. So you really play the game of isolating this bar a little bit, ask the strings to follow you there. And again, the panic, the acceleration, I am now on page 4, and so this time we don't even finish the crescendo again. So, pardon, la 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 la. Debussy didn't want the harmonics here, it's Renier. You can make them, it doesn't change much, but you have to know it's Renier. Okay, and so then over the retenue. So, is pianissimo, not piano. It just means that it's like an old memory coming back. It needs to be played really, really less than in the very beginning, or at least with the intention of being like really, really careful. Okay, this time the strings are going with us, playing arco, the melody. Same thing about the articulation, regular articulation, then dots, then dash, not much. Always the crescendo, going back to nothing, and this time, you can see that I circle the pianissimo. It means that you need to do a lot of crescendo on this, and then go back to nothing, and ask the strings to follow, and then crescendo. And this time first time we had the piano subito on this C major chord at the end of the bar, this time not. So you can really enjoy this C major, disappeared, and then Here the dynamics are hard to follow, but if you can crescendo and really disappear even more. And here I change the speed of the arpeggiando to change the color because the chords are changing. So I make them a little shorter and I really try to disappear in the color. Okay, next section to finish the first dance, I need to accelerate because it's already 10:22 for me. So wow, 8:22 for you. So here, very important that you keep in rhythm. So I'm gonna beat in 6 just to detail for you. It's la 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 la. So the last beat of the bar is actually very, very, very fast. So it's and you have a trap, and it's not a trap, it's actually a held, but the cello is playing beats, it's all of the contra beats. So it's la 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 poof, beats A, beats A, beats. So if I detail in 6 beats, normally it's 3 beats, but if I detail in every quarter note, the cello plays the beats on quarter note 2, 4, and 6 every bar. So it's you play beats, beats A, and the last time you have to start with the beats of the cello, the first note. So it's beats, 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 beats. Very important. So many harpists do 2, 3. Nah, no. Be precise. On the 6th quarter of the bar, you start. It goes very fast. It's tough. I know. Well. Then, last thing about this little element is the repetition. Alors, I don't want to hear. It's not what is written. The arrival point is not what matters. You can see the dash that is written. It's on the first thumb. Then it disappears. It's so 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Apart from this, like repeat for the repetition, you need to place. I place the ending finger of the left hand, and the thumb is ready to directly land. Yes. Then I don't use the extra on harmonics. Why? It's because you already repeat the first la in the first beat. Why should we do add an extra pedal and noise in the pedals by putting an E sharp? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, I understand the intention behind it by Renier, but it's a lot of pedal moving for not much of a result, because you just did the repetition of the thumb after the left thumb after the right hand finger. So no need to put an E sharp for me. Just play F, fa, si, fa, fa, si. Just did what you did on the first beat. Et 2, 3, etc. The way out in the end, it needs to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I need to understand 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Really clear, precise, and in tempo. You can actually add a little time. And it's important you practice in 6 quarters, but then in 3. 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's important because it gives a feeling of inside. If you have it inside, it's going to give us a feeling of dancing much more. Last thing about the last notes of this bar, the retenue. You see there is a slur between re and la, and then a slur between. It's like. It's the same idea. The weight is on the first note, and then you remove the weight. And And then you see that I put a muffling sign on the note we just on the when we go to the second bar of this. I muffle the A immediately to start from clean. And I don't muffle it between every note we play because I think that they need to resonate at the same time. That it's important that the Re stays resonating when we play the A, and same thing when we play the B flat, like this. Okie dokie. And then, suddenly we go to the dance number 2 that I'm going to have to do in express mode. You start, there are no more slurring between the two notes. So now we need to muffle between every note. So, bam, bum, bam, bam, bim, bum, bum, bam, bum, bam, bi, da, dum, dum, din, din, bi, bum, bum, bi. So I see I'm muffling between every note. Bi, bam, bam. Okay. Okie dokie. Slowly pass your pedals. In this beginning, not much to say. The string parts have normally a piano subito on the 9th bar, so the second bar of line 2. I also advise you to do it. So in the beginning, like maybe more some kind of a piano than a pianissimo, and then go pianissimo on the second bar of line 2. Okay, and apart from this, the color is why is that? Because the color is changing. And then we go to the animes. So when there is a Z, it means it's progressive. It's gonna be, it's like en animant a little bit, but it's a little more imperative. It's like giving you an order. So you don't, it doesn't mean that it's subito change, that it's just a progressive accelerando. So why did I use an harmonics here? It's because of the spacing for your hands to make it more comfortable. So when I play Sol, La, Re, Fa, I have better control of the sound. There is more space. Same thing on the way down. And then you will see that I cheat. I don't do. I think it's just not worth it having to go back up. So I just don't do the last 3 notes of the left hand. Shame on me. So. Here I do them, of course, 2 bars later. But here I think that the idea is that it's getting perky and excited. So about the arpeggiando here, it's more brisé than really arpeggiated. And then we have this written emiola if we want, but I think it's stupid if we do it too much. So I kind of mark the opposite. You will see my accents. 3, 1, 2, 3, bum 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 bum. Again, I use on harmonics for the last one because it's also easier to have control of the sound when you have a third between 1 and 2. Okay, and so here it's really forte. And here usually it's very noisy. It's not easy. You need to go really frontly. Don't be afraid. Like, the more afraid you will be, the more noisy it's going to be. You need to really go. Bum, bum. Okay, now we have the phrase. Just phrase it beautifully. There is no slurring, but you understand. You phrase it like the strings. Da, da, dum, ba, di, dum, ba, then, do, da, di, da, do, da, di, disappear. Okay, so 2 plus 2 plus 4. Alors, next page. Yes, so I wrote the pedal. There is nothing really surprising here. Just don't do a crescendo when you go back up on the first series of arpeggios here. Don't do that. Because there is no crescendo here. It's really just actually disappear. So you should sustain towards the middle and then the crescendo. And then this time there is a crescendo. So it's just to mark the difference between the two. The second time there is a crescendo, and then go back to piano. And I don't play it because I think it's kind of, I mean, you can do it. It's doable, but it's making it more heavy. And just playing La 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 is going to give us the energy to go to the next thing. I mean, you can play the repeat of the A, but I don't think it's worth it. I think it's actually impairing us from being really active. Piano, and then piano subito, but crescendo. That's kind of hard to be clean. I really try to be careful when I'm here. I don't use the Franklin replacement. I am kind of very vigilant. I am in control and I go only on the very tip of my fingers, especially here. It can sound really bad. So, and really don't forget the crescendo at the end, and then alors, big debate about this. Crescendo or slurring, what is the more important after rehearsal number 3? I don't like to explode on this octave, so for me I privilege the slurring, which means I kind of play the octave a little less. I know it's not what's written, but it makes me feel better, like to really emphasize the phrasing. Here I do the crescendo towards the last note. And you see that I cheat, I don't play the octave because it gives me the opportunity to play third on the left hand and really underline the last crescendo towards the last chord. So I play this. And there is no repetition of the sol. On the lower sol. There is on the right hand, but not on the left. Okay. Because it's not there anymore, and there is also no slurring, but I add the slurring, so same thing about the repetition, no octave, no, I cheat, but it's better for the crescendo, I think. And here we are supposed again to move forwards, but you know, like don't do too big of an anime here. In the pedal passage. What is very important is that you do the pedal really rhythmically. So it should be 1 beat. So I really put them on the beats. It's really important. So E, G and B, F and D, and then B and A, C and G here. And then A natural and B flat on the last beat. And I don't play the last 16, and then I start again. Etc. etc. Well, you know, you need to pass, you need to spend a lot of hours there just for the CLTV. Why don't I do the fingering of? Because I don't like it. I have better control of the sound of my thumb. And I can handle better also the legato if I separate it. But it's not really word of God again. You can do whatever you like as long as I hear something very legato. Diminuendo, rallentando. Okay. Then the a tempo, yes, but I like it a tempo a little meno because I think it's the color is very different. It's kind of a little nostalgic. I like to think it's like underwater, I like to say. So ask the string to play a little slower here. So, and then, alors, this C, so the harmonic is the melody, and then not too important, the last note. It's like the echo. Crescendo until the end of the bar. Pianissimo again. Crescendo. And then careful, you are not done with the crescendo yet. So don't explode in the beginning, because if you do, there is no way you can go to the next forte. So keep some under your feet. Maybe mezzo forte. And here give me a forte on the next. So. Sorry for the noise. Real forte, going to even more to this chord, which is like the maximum of our little phrase. So forte, crescendo, it's fortissimo, and then disappears. So okay, last is up in the air. Then we go with the harp passage. So I wouldn't really count. Some people like to do 8 by beats. I don't like that. Just do a trill. And what is precise is that inside you have a precise pulse. And then, so my fingering is 2-1, and then 2-1-2-3. This is not the word of God. It's what works better with my big clumsy fingers. Without too much noise, and I also think that I have more control of the sound on the second finger when it's the second finger starting. When it's the third finger, sometimes it's a little clumsy. The third finger I don't like too much. It's also it kind of muffles more in advance if you play 3 fingers. So I think I have more control over the resonance if I do like this. Just 1 second, guys. I have text. I need to check. Okay, sorry. So, and then go back to piano on the trill. And then big tail. I need to understand the change of rhythm. We go from 6 to 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, very important that we hear the difference. So that it's really to be really rhythmical, practice, and etc. And then, of course, I know my fingering is not ideal there, but you need to be really unifying those two. It's again a scale tone. Oh, what a surprise! Okay, and then you can take a little time, so that is okay. So alors, here I get rid of 1 note because I don't think it's really worth repeating everything. It's actually impairing us from power, giving more sound, repeating this G. So just play 2 and 2. 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. And here important, you see my little arrows toward the first beats. You need to stay rhythmical here. It's very easy to just get carried away and lose sense of time. No. 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then the second one, as you heard, a little more withdrawn. The près de la table is, all of the près de la table is Renier suggestion. Just for clarity, Debussy didn't care. Okay, so that's it for this anime. So take a little time at the beginning. Muffle immediately, of course, because the chord is changing with the strings. Okay, Okay, next tempo. You need to play with the triplets. Don't do... It's making it too soft. So I like to... I use them as a kind of a way to... a trampoline, a way to bounce. So... And then very be careful. So first time is crescendo. And then go back to piano. And then second time is decrescendo on the scale. Okay, so really do that, then piano. Here it's kind of, it doesn't look tough, but it kind of is. You need to be very even. I don't want to be like no rocks. Try to really have a long, twice 2 bars. Okay, and then it's an explosion. There is no crescendo, so please don't do actually the quartet do and then this forte is subito. So okay, so here really explosion, very solid. I want to count the notes here, everything. Hey. And then it's disappear. So because we had this explosion, it was a surprise. Like, so we got surprised. I have a newbie. I am so sorry. Okay. It's like what just happened. So even less. And then subito explosion. And try to have all notes forte subito, not only the. I need to really sustain. Here, très retenu means very slowed down. Don't start in a new tempo. Try to start on almost the same tempo and really let the time disappear. Okay, so again about the dynamics. Nothing now. Less. Then La, Do, Re, Fa, and then the next passage. So on this I could spend 2 hours alone. So I'm not going to spend 2 hours on this and kind of try to go fast. Different elements that are really important. Is the phrasing that is very particular that we'll find in Debussy very often. For example, in the second movement of his sonate for flute trio, for flute, viola and harp, you have this phrasing 2 plus 1, 2 bars plus 1 bar in the do, re, do, de, da, di, do, di, da, do, da, di, do, de, di, do, do, do. It's exactly the same thing. It's 2 bars plus 1. So what does it mean? Musically, we need to really go to the first beat of the second bar and then we disappear. And then a new phrase is starting as a memory of what we just did. So I emphasize on that because it's important to take time. Take time. Between the 2 bars and 1 bar, okay? And then you could hear that I really sing the thumb. I use on harmonics to and then I disappear on the third one. Okay, alors pezzo forte subito. Here the beats. And they are not exactly similar. It's like the prelude to the afternoon of a phone. There is something like this. What is important here that you work that your triplet repartition is even. The triplet, so you need to hear in a slower tempo, but one beat. It's 3 even beats. So with a little precipitation on the third one, but you should really aim for something regular. So many people do. No, it's a 3, it's barring 3. So and then so crescendo, precipitando, and then jump to mezzo forte subito. And then we disappear up there. Okay. I really erase, almost not play the second finger on when I have this. Because every time you hear this played, you always hear the melody as if it was. No, so please work on the melody that is written. Fa, re, fa, do, and do. That's why you can see all of these red and orange crossing the second finger, because there is nothing that gets me more annoyed than this. Okay, then pianissimo, even less. And then on big rehearsal number 5, climax of the second one, and you can see that it's the same phrasing, 2 bars plus 1 bar. So you need to go towards this one. Okay, so and then a little space again, and what is very important in this bar is the, because it's space super important. Really play with that a lot. And then plus lent. Be careful of this C. On the chromatic harp, it were 2 different strings. So if you of the left hand B, C sharp, sorry, it's not part of the melody. So the melody is do re, do re, do re, which was on 1 row on strings on the chromatic harp, and then this one was another string of C sharp. So we do that muffle on the classical harp, pedal harp. It doesn't work. So you need to really erase the C flat, C sharp. This one, so that the melody is clear. Really disappear, take your time, as much time as you want for to finish. And here, breathe and be a tempo. You need to practice the pedal change, it's a lot, I know. Muffle and I forgot the E flat. Anyway, this is a hard pedal change and you need to be clear. So I breathe for the strings 1 beat ahead. I do do de di da do. Pedal, do. Okay, give them 1 bit of breathing that is very clear. And you can hear it's very rhythmically organized. I think it's the best fingering. Renier is right, because you really have a control on the arrival note. So 2 plus 4 is the best repetition for this. And also really clear rhythmically. I play a G sharp from the beginning. Okay, try to be really rhythmically precise also. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, and here you see a muffle at the beginning of this. Color is completely changing here. But you need to do do all of the dynamics precisely written, and you see, I muffle always the left hand to keep it really, really light. And so we are still in 3, pram, 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 pram. And then we have this piano subito on the third bar of this primero tempo. And again, piano subito. Every time it's like you sweat on the second bar and then you go back to the piano subito. Crescendo, and this time there is no piano subito on this one. So on the line 5 of page, I don't know what, but the page we are on right now, this time we are not piano, we are mezzo forte, mezzo piano, I wrote, okay? So really do the crescendo. And then decrescendo. We just disappear again, okay? So apart from this one who is going to the end of the crescendo, all the crescendos before are not going anywhere. They are crescending and then going to piano subito. Okay. So here, this time you have the accent. I love the third finger for this because it's a little dumb and so gives this color that is kind of a little heavy. I like. That's why I use 2-3 for this accent. And here the crescendo really go towards the end. And then muffle and again the accent. Once again, for me it's just a surprise crescendo, it doesn't go anywhere. And then back to mezzo forte. And there we have the sforzando. Okay, so here you can start, if you want to start the gliss with the left hand, you can. There is no, like, not really. Okay, here don't try to be really a tempo. 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Okay, and then from here, some people stay a little bit slower. No, try to really stay a tempo. And so, yes, tous ces accords également arpeggiés, it means all of these chords equally arpeggiated. Wow. I think that the lower one are less important. The melody is not re, 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 mi, fa. The melody is re, mi, fa, re. So I give the emphasis on the one that are on top. This one not too much. Re, mi, fa, re, re, so every time the second beats of the bar, I play a little lighter, a little less. So and here a tiny bit of retenue just for the I don't know why I muffle, but it's my muffling obsessions. You don't have to muffle there. Okay, and then the retenue. So I use an harmonics because, again, it's because of the spacing. Do, la, fa, mi. You start with a C, not a B, for the spacing. Here, very important that you stay in 3, you know where your beats are. So, okay, so 1, 2, 3, and you practice them with the accent in the beginning, but in the end, it's one long bar. I know it's retenu, but there is not a rit until before two bars before the end. So it's really important that the first re fa la re fa la re fa la on the last line, that it's a tempo from what we just did before. So it's really 1, 2, 3, 1, and I really try to keep a tempo at least the 2 first bars of this line. It's just to help me structure the 2 last bar. Some people don't know where to put the pits of the orchestra in the end. For me, it's very logically written, the ritenuto starts 2 bars before the end, so it's re, fa, la, re, sol, fa, re, as if you were going on the ritenuto. There is no tempo at the last bar. So if you look at the tempo at the speed for the last line, is okay. So yes, a tempo. 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3. Don't make fermatas when they are not written. It's really in 3, the bar of the ritenuto. It's not oh fermata, oh another fermata, and then oh, and then where is the piece? No, no, no. Be rhythmically structured for this. And 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 3. Let vibrate. Wait until the sound of the harp disappears, and then you can muffle. Woo! Okay, I made it in 2 hours. My gosh.